Millay, and this is your video review for October 17th, Friday, in college U.S. history. Things you need to know about are the Federalist era. We talked about George Washington as the first president, and him and Adams being our Federalist presidents. You need to know that George Washington was the only unanimously elected president. You need to know that Thomas Jefferson was his Secretary of State, and that his Secretary of Treasury was Alexander Hamilton, and that those two were always butting heads about the issue of the federal bank, and we'll talk more about that later. You need to know about the Bill of Rights. One of the questions on the test is just going to be match the right to its amendment, and you have to match up all 10 of them. That's going to be worth 20 points on the test, so just know the Bill of Rights, know which amendment does which thing. You need to know who John Jay was. He was the first Supreme Court Chief Justice. You also need to know that him and the rest of the Supreme Court and our national court system was set up by the Judiciary Act of 1789, and how it set up our circuit courts and our district courts and gave us the justice system we have today. You need to know what the difference is between a loose constructionist and a strict constructionist on the Constitution. A strict constructionist believes that you can only do those things that are specifically listed in the Constitution, while a loose constructionist believes that you can do anything you want as long as it's not forbidden in the Constitution. And it all comes back to that elastic clause, necessary and proper clause, that says we can do all things that are necessary and proper for the running of our country. You need to know about that and how those things affected the National Bank. You need to know that the National Bank was created. It was chartered for 20 years, which means that it would exist for 20 years and then need to be reviewed again. You need to know why Southerners didn't like the National Bank and Northerners did. You need to know what caused the Whiskey Rebellion and what George Washington did about it and why it was important. You know, it proved that we could stop a rebellion if we needed to, and it proved that our federal government could take out rebels. And why it started was because of a tax on whiskey that a lot of people thought was unfair. You know about the two first parties in the United States government. The Federalists were led by Alexander Hamilton, and they wanted the government by the upper class. They had a very strong distrust of the common man. They were very, very much like yesterday's Republicans, or today's Republicans. And you need to know about Democratic Republicans, which were led by Thomas Jefferson, and they were like today's Democrats. They eventually became the Democrats. You know, they were stronger in the West and the South, whereas the Federalists were stronger in the North and the East. You need to know that they were in favor of a weak central government and not in favor of special treatment for the wealthy. And just a question will be asked, what are the two parties and what kinds of differences were there between them on the quiz. You need to know what things Washington set up as a precedent. You know, the 2 terms would be a perfect example. What he said in his farewell address. You need to know what party John Adams was. You're going to need to know about the quasi-war with France, which was a collection of French warships attacking American warships. You need to know about the XYZ affair and undeclared naval warfare on France. Definitely going to be a question about the Alien and Sedition Acts, probably a 5-point question on what they were, what did they do, and why they were unpopular. You need to know what things the Federalist Party achieved and what things made them not popular with other people in the country. You know, as far as the Federalist Party not existing anymore. Also, you will need to know about the presidency of Jefferson, how he defeated John Adams, and who would become the vice president. You need to know what happened between Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton over that disagreement. You need to know about the Bank of the United States, about the repeal of the whiskey excise tax, and you need to know about the Naturalization Act, which decreased the amount of time that it took to be a citizen. You know about the 12th Amendment, which says that electors specify whether they're voting for president or vice president. You need to definitely know about John Marshall, and Marshall was a Supreme Court Chief Justice Marbury versus Madison was the court case that he talked about, and you need to know about this court case. It sets up the idea of judicial review, which means that Supreme Court can overrule a law by Congress, and it made the Supreme Court probably our most powerful Supreme Court. You need to know about the Louisiana Purchase, what was bought, how much land, how much we paid for it. You know, we paid $15 million, or 2 or 3 cents an acre, to Napoleon Bonaparte of France in return for doubling the size of our country, and why some people were against it and some people were for it. And you also need to know about the problem that Jefferson had with the Louisiana Purchase, because he was a strict constructionist and the Constitution did not give the federal government the power to buy land. So he had a problem with that, but he did it anyway. And of course, last but not least, you need to know about the Corps of Exploration, led by Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. And you need to know where they started, what places they went through. You need to know about Sacagawea and why this was an important exploration, and how many people were affected by it. And if you do all of those things, you will be fine for the quiz on Friday.